Survivor Series WarGames predictions time. I gotta tell you, I feel like some of this card, it's a little rushed, a little thrown together. All these pieces coming together last minute. But anyways, the first match on the card, newly announced, triple threat match, Intercontinental Championship, the champion Braun Breaker going up against Sheamus and Ludwig Kaiser. And once again, just announced on Raw. Like, it's just boom, like that. Feels kind of like a Raw match, could be like a Raw main event, but I do expect these guys to absolutely go crazy. I love the spot on Raw where Braun Breaker was trying to do the spear to Kaiser and he ran around and he just dummied himself right into the corner of the announce table. It was awesome. So I think this is going to be very hard hitting. The key thing for me in this match is going to be, is it going to be a good showcase for Ludwig Kaiser? He is on the ascent right now. He is working his way up the card. I think it's a great spot for him in the IC title division, and I think he finally needs to start finding his character. So Sheamus, I think, is there to be the anchor. He's gonna just beat and batter people. Braun Breaker, I do predict, is going to retain the IC title. These three guys can feud for quite some time, and I think eventually getting the belt on Kaiser would be a good thing. I don't think WWE is shy from swapping around the IC title. We've had Breaker and Jay back to Breaker. I think they could do a lot here. And I think if you just put it on Kaiser eventually, maybe at Mania or the Rumble, I don't know, but give it to Kaiser at some point, see what he can do with it. Great on the mic, work in the ring, but you gotta get him up there a little bit. So it'll be a good showcase for Kaiser. Breaker retains. All right, another match that was just announced. LA Knight, yeah, going up against Shinsuke Nakamura, the Sith Lord. Now, this, again, rushed. Come on, like, it's been 2 weeks since Nakamura came back and decided to target Mr. Knight. And I don't think that this does not give it any time. Now, I'm good with Shinsuke. I like that Shinsuke is back. They give him a lot of time off, come back very hot. Scary, nasty heel. He's a little bit different. He's a little bit scarier now that he's found the dark side. But the US title, this match, I feel like should have been in a month to give it some build. We've had 2 weeks of Nakamura just starting to see LA Knight as his target. And LA Knight at the same time has been feuding with Santos Escobar. He's had the long thing with Mr. Andrade and Carmelo Hayes, which, by the way, where is that? We did the best of 7 series, then it got wonked, if I'm right. Didn't nobody clean came out of that thing? I'm still hoping for okay, give me Andrade, Knight one-on-one, do Carmelo and Knight one-on-one. You mix in Shinsuke too, Escobar's you should have probably turned this into a fatal 5-way. Fatal 5-way for the US title would have been bonkers. Andrade and Carmelo could just eliminate each other because they have so much heat together. Escobar can do a bunch of crazy stuff. And then you still get the finish if it's going to be Nakamura and LA Knight. This one is interesting because aside from okay, it's a rush title program to get it on WarGames, they could do one of two things here. This is going to be a program, I think, for LA Knight for a few months. So do you have LA Knight retain clean against Nakamura? I don't think you do. Because what heat is that going to drive? What is that going to motivate their feud to go longer? It ain't gonna work. So do you put the belt on Nakamura? It's very rushed, but if you want Nakamura to gain some momentum and seem very unstoppable, unbeatable, he might need to go in there and just beat LA Knight. Otherwise, I think it's a DQ finish. It's got to be a walk finish in that regard, either because other players get involved or Nakamura just gets DQ'd because he goes too far and setting up a rematch. I'm gonna say, I don't want to, but I'm gonna say Nakamura wins. I think you can just get him in there, make him scary, dominant, and it gets LA Knight to chase. I love LA Knight as US champion, but he's not going to lose any popularity if he loses the belt and he has to chase again. Nakamura, I think, does need the belt, and he could hold it for a few months and you get LA Knight to chase again, only to get it one more time. Okay, let's look at the women's WarGames match. Once again, kind of rough, all over the place, isn't it? A lot of moving factors. So Jade Cargill got taken out on SmackDown. She got put through a car. No, it was not Bronson Reed that dummied her through the automobile. All signs point to the obvious pick, which is Bayley. We saw Bayley on Monday Night Raw. She came out to help her team. It seems like officially Bayley is going to be the 5th man, brother. So I don't doubt that the women's WarGames match will stand out and possibly be match of the night, because in previous years they've done a lot of cool stuff. But I do feel this combination of superstars, they haven't told the best story with it. There's a lot they could have done, and I felt like they didn't really do very much. They could have taken Jade out weeks ago, and then that could have actually set up some more intrigue. Instead, we've had 1 week of Jade get taken out for WarGames, and Bayley is just in there. So on the women's side, Liv, Nia, Tiffany Stratton, Raquel Rodriguez, and Candice LeRae going up against Bianca, Rhea, Bayley, Io Sky, and Naomi. My quick pick here is that the faces gonna win here? I am gonna say that the faces win, but a couple of things could happen. See, we're all assuming Bayley is the one that took out Jade Cargill to get the spot. Now, Bayley as a heel, I like it a lot better. I think it works better for her character, and she hasn't done very much since she was face. She lost the title to Nia. Now, on the face side, there's some good combinations of characters that kind of clash, and I wish they told a better story with it. Because you have the old relationship, Damage Control, Io, and Bayley, but because Bayley just got added, you don't really get to tell any of that. You got the heat between Bianca and Rhea that has popped up, and Bianca feeling like, remember on Raw last night, she said, like, I've got to carry this whole team on my back. You got Bayley and Bianca, and you got tension there. And then you got everybody on the other side. And you have a question mark of Tiffany Stratton with that women's Money in the Bank. An easy thing is to have Bayley turn heel during WarGames, or do what they did in NXT, where they had them, like, Bayley locks one of them, the competitors, inside the shark cage. So you could have Bayley, like, lock Rhea in, and then that way, and then Bayley becomes like a heel and turns heel bad guy and starts attacking everybody in the cage. I don't know if they would do that. So I feel like there's a couple of combinations, a couple of twists they could take here in this match. You could have Bayley be the obvious pick and turn heel during the WarGames match. You could have Bianca be the one to turn heel, get more frustrated, more friction with Rhea Ripley, because I'd like to see that Bianca was the one that took out Jade Cargill to set up their match, because we don't know how long Jade's going to be out for, and it could be a while. So I think they want to tell that story slowly. You don't want an obvious choice here. But if they start like pinning it on Bayley, saying you were the one who did it, and she didn't do it, that can create some tension and drama. And if Bianca was ultimately the one that turned, she turns heel against Jade, number one, you're trying to make Jade a big superstar. That could be setting up the WrestleMania match together. And it would feel like Triple H, Shawn Michaels, where Triple H was the one who threw Shawn like into the car and everything, which is a great thing to do. So I'm gonna say that the faces go over, but my ultimate prediction here, Tiffany Stratton cashes in the Money in the Bank. She's got both champions on her team. And I think you could get a spot there at the end where they're all down and Tiffany could do the cash in. We had Damian Priest last year attempt to cash in. Tiffany could do it in the match, and I think that would swerve everybody because I think a lot of focused attention will be on Bayley and the dynamics on that team, and then you forget that Tiffany Stratton has a chance to get the belt. The question would be, which belt? Next up, Damian Priest versus Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship. What's going on with Gunther? Why is he scared and like he's becoming a shell of himself? He lost to Cody at Crown, and then this whole feud with Priest for the second time is telling the story of like Gunther's lost his mojo basically, which really doesn't sit well with his character. Now, I guess if you didn't do this type of story, what are you doing between Damian Priest and Gunther? It's been okay as a build. I don't buy Damian Priest winning the title. I think that's going to come later. I think Gunther's going to geek out a win here, and it's going to be like a sloppy one. I don't think he's going to win in a dominant fashion. Either Gunther's going to win by DQ and they could do a rematch at Saturday Night's Main Event or on Raw. I think you see Gunther do a like really poor tactic, like a roll up distraction finish, something like that, where he doesn't win very clean and it's very obvious that Damian Priest had a shot to win the belt. But I don't like how they've treated Gunther's character here. It just hasn't worked, and he's just like, he's floundering right now. He's the world champion. He was so dominant and prominent on Raw when he was Intercontinental Champion, won the world title, felt like that build like he was King of the Ring, and he did all this stuff, and he's been hitting those big strides. I think he needed to win at Crown. I know they wanted Cody to do it, but it's like, it's a ring. It's not even a belt. It just comes down to being a ring. Like, it didn't matter, but if he got a win on Cody, you elevate Gunther that much higher. And so after losing to Cody, and then they've been doing this story, and maybe that's what they're trying to do is like, hey, he lost to Cody Rhodes, his confidence is shaken, and Damian Priest is capitalizing on that. But like, Priest is also, he's gone with Judgment Day. And I feel like Judgment Day as a story is just really starting to slow down and not get interesting. I don't know how they're gonna do it, but I'd say Gunther retains because I think next up, they gotta get to something with Punk, Drew, Seth with the world title. I do ultimately feel like Gunther's gonna drop that world title. Maybe they're gonna do it on the Raw debut on Netflix to really surprise everybody, where main event is going to be world title match, and it's Punk or it's going to be Seth or somebody is going to win that title. Next up, and the final and the main event presumably is going to be the men's WarGames match, Bloodline versus Bloodline. We're finally going to do it, and we have the addition of the fifth man, CM Punk, and you have the return of Paul Heyman. All very interesting concepts here, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, if you guys enjoy all these videos that we do here on the channel, do Matt a favor. It's a little thing, but hit the subscribe button because it goes a long way to get us to like 20K subs. This has a lot of interesting pieces, a lot of moving parts. The relationship, the dynamic of CM Punk getting in the ring with Roman Reigns. What are they gonna act like? You got Paul Heyman there on the outside. What's he gonna do at the end of WarGames? That is kind of my big question here. And also, like what we're all thinking, what is Paul Heyman going to be wearing at WarGames? Is he going to be dressing like Solo once again? Is he going to be dappered? Is he gonna come out with Roman Reigns? Is he gonna come out with CM Punk? One of the interesting things from the beginning, I feel, is the entrances. And I think Roman is going to come out with original Bloodline all together. And then you're going to have CM Punk come out with Paul Heyman at his side. You could even do a really cool moment right before WarGames. So you have the heels come out first. If you have new Bloodline, get them in the ring, and then you do the shot at Gorilla and you see everyone standing there from Sammy, Jimmy J, Roman, and Paul Heyman comes up and Roman be like, "Oh, you ready to go, wise man?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he starts walking out with Punk first. And then you get Roman's reaction, the facial expressions, and he comes out with his original Bloodline, but he's all kind of shook, like he looked on SmackDown. But anyways, that was just a small little detail. Then I think that if you did something like that though, it's going to kind of rattle Roman Reigns in the match. He doesn't have his wise man, he doesn't understand what is happening here. It's a very interesting match because of what it will implicate for Saturday night's main event, and even into WrestleMania. Do you get the turn of Paul Heyman? We talked about in the last video that we did just yesterday. It's a deep dive, so check that out on the channel if you guys want to. You could have Paul turn on Roman. He won't side with New Bloodline Solo. He powerbombed him. That ain't gonna happen. He either walks off, I think he walks off with Punk in the end, or The Rock shows up and disrupts everything. Inside WarGames itself, you get the interesting dynamics of Roman and Punk, Heyman at the side, Roman finally getting his hands on Solo, which is kind of like the whole idea here. Everything else I think is going to be window dressing, Jimmy J and Sammy and the rest of the Bloodline. I have to go with the prediction here. I have to say that original Bloodline is going to win. You have way too much star power with Punk and Roman in there. Roman ain't losing. He lost that crown, which was very surprising, but I think he's got to get, that team needs to get that defining win over the New Bloodline, and you could still tell the story going forward. It's what's going to unravel after. Last year it ended and we got CM Punk with the surprise return. I want to see a tsunami off the top of WarGames, by the way. I feel like that's going to happen. So OG Bloodline winning, Punk and Heyman maybe leave together. Maybe not in a big, like, oh my gosh, he turned on Roman Reigns, Paul Heyman did, but maybe just more of the subtleties of Heyman coming out with Punk, like I said, and leaving with him to make it more subtle and give more conflict to Roman Reigns. But I have to throw it out there and say, I think the final boss shows up at WarGames. Every single piece of this story will be in the ring. New Bloodline, Old Bloodline, Roman Reigns, even the history of Rock and CM Punk, the X factor of Paul Heyman and is he going to side with the final boss? There are too many pieces in here where I feel like it fits perfectly for final boss to come out and not just do what he did at Bad Blood where he just points at everybody and threatens them and leaves. I think you can get final boss to come out to the middle of the ring. So OG Bloodline can win, but then it's not over because then I think you can get New Bloodline to regroup and come in with The Rock, and The Rock can stand tall at the end of WarGames to really shake up and shock everybody. Because you're gonna want a lot more stories to tell after WarGames. It's not over. I do wonder, like, what are you gonna do with Punk? Is he just gonna roll back to Raw? Does Paul Heyman go with him? Jimmy J and Uso, do they split at the end of WarGames and just go back to the respective brands doing whatever they do? Or are they still going to be involved in this whole Bloodline thing? I do feel that you are going to somehow, some way, finish this match and then end up with Roman and Solo one-on-one for the Ula Fala. To me, that is Saturday night's main event or the Royal Rumble. But a lot can happen at WarGames. Does feel a little rushed and slapped together though. Drop your predictions below. Have a great day. See ya.